Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Mondays with Mooch. I know it's been a while since I've posted anything, but today I'm really stoked to get back on here. I've got a really good guest. I've got PeeWee joining me, so I know most of you know who he is. Most likely, he's had been all over the internet lately, and he's also written a brand new book, which we'll talk about here today too. And I'll put a link down below on where to get it. But welcome, PeeWee.
Thanks a lot, Mooch.
How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Just enjoying today.
Happy to really have you on the show. I know we've been talking quite a bit on and off for quite a while now, so it's happy to finally see you face to face and have a little conversation.
That's for sure, man.
So for those of people that maybe don't know, which I don't know who it would be, but say someone doesn't know, who would give them a quick little background on who you are?
Well, everybody calls me PeeWee. That's because of my size, or they saw me in the shower. But I'm going to go with my size. So I was a Hells Angel for a lot of years, and I quit the club in like 2010. Had some issues, some criminal issues that I was dealing with at the time, and plus I was just sick of the bullshit. You know what I mean? I just wanted more of a positive life because I didn't feel like things were going in the direction I wanted them to go.
Right. And the cool thing, too, is for people that want more details about why PeeWee left and all that stuff, definitely pick up his book. He goes into it in detail there. So we'll kind of touch on some of that stuff. But for the real deeper meanings, pick up his book and go there. So, PeeWee, we got an ex-Mongol, ex-Hells Angel sitting here talking.
No.
So I'm glad we met now than earlier, right?
Right.
But I'm happy to have you on. So I was thinking, we've talked about it before off air, but I feel like, a lot of guys, regardless of what club they join, they have a lot of stuff in common, and we've talked about it before too. So I kind of wanted to, have you tell people what brought you into, what got you into motorcycles and what made you want to join a motorcycle club.
It was kind of weird because, to be honest with you, Mooch, I didn't start riding a motorcycle seriously until I was like in my mid-20s. I never even know how to ride one.
Yeah.
And like in the book when you read, I was like into the cars and all the shit, the greaser stuff, I had the comb back here and the whole 9 yards, Now nice. You and me got the same barber.
That's right.
But that's how it was back then. But what I was really looking for, because I had three sisters. I didn't have a blood brother. I know you have a brother. So I was looking for like. The greaser guys were my brothers. They still are. I see them. I just seen them 2 weeks ago. We're working on my 56 Chevy. And it was so cool to see those guys and they all helping out and shit like that. But what I was really looking for was like a solid like brotherhood thing. And after I learned how to ride a bike, you know what I mean? And I got a motorcycle. I got to tell you, this is funny, Mooch. When my first wife financed the motorcycle, it was a 1980 lowrider, had the AMF on the tank yet. When she financed it, first thing she said to me was, "Promise me you're not going to join any motorcycle gangs." And I said, "I promise, I won't." So about a year and a half goes by, and I keep running into this group out of Milwaukee called the Sinners. And I know they're in California too and stuff like that. So, and they're in Michigan and Indiana. And I was hanging around with them. And the only thing that was shying me away from it, bro, was, exactly what you know exactly how I'm saying it because you felt it and you've been there. When you're the big club, you're the big master club. All the little clubs, around you, they idolize you. You know what I mean? Well, we didn't idolize the Outlaws. Matter of fact, we couldn't stand them, but we had to deal with them every day. You know what I mean? Because we were in their city, and that's the way it was. And I got so sick of this shit that I just, 10 years I was in there. And the meetings and the dealings with them and bullshit. And I never in a million years would have thought that I would be a Hells Angel. You know what I mean? Because there were none in Wisconsin. There were none in Illinois. The only ones were in Minnesota, bro. That was the closest to me. And I didn't even know that. So we went to a motorcycle rally in Humboldt, Iowa in 1991. And all these clubs, Mooch, because it was funny because when we pull up to the gate, we had our patches on, but we didn't want to run the bottom rocker of Wisconsin just because of the outlaw thing, because everybody was hating on them, and we didn't want to be affiliated with them. So we didn't want to wear the state we were from, so we were wearing nomads. But how fucking stupid were we? Our license plates said Wisconsin.
Right.
So we pull up to the gate, and there's like 10, maybe 12 Sons of Silence standing by the gate. And at that time, they were warring with the outlaws pretty bad. So, we pull up, who the hell are you guys, and they surround us. And it was pretty funny. You would have got a kick out of it. One guy says, where are you guys from? And no way was I going to say Milwaukee, bro. No way was I going to say it. So I was trying to think. I lived in a suburb way outside of Milwaukee called Oak Creek. It was like going toward Racine, Wisconsin. So I said, we're from Oak Creek, thinking like they wouldn't even know where the fuck that is, And this big fat dude, when I say big fat guy, Mooch, this guy's like 700 pounds. He looks over and his name is Bubba. He's dead now. He says, I was born and raised in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. And I think Oak Creek's a suburb of Milwaukee.
Called you right out.
Oh, yeah, bro. And he said it, they kind of like, woo, he took the wind out of my sail. So they were like, you guys from Milwaukee? And they were like, yeah. Well, you guys party with the outlaws? And I said, no, we don't. And he said, we're going to make a phone call. If you're lying, this is as far as you guys go. And I mean, it was serious, bro. It really was. And then you look around, Mooch, and it was the Galloping Gooses, the Elfersteros, the Hells Henchmen were there at that time. And trying to think who else. Sons of Silence and the Hells Angels, which I didn't see one yet. And so if you think about it, bro, every club I just mentioned to you, they're pretty much all outlaw hating clubs,
Right. Yep.
So it was a bad situation. And the guy came back and he goes, yeah, we talked to the guy on the phone. He says, yeah, they don't get along. And then, so we're okay. We went in. And nobody really would talk to us. They blew us off. But it was one of those things, and I don't know if you had that same feeling, Mooch, because of, what I mean, the things you were doing in your life when you wanted to be a Mongol, when you see them and you're fascinated by it, right? The whole big picture.
Right.
I'll never forget it, bro. I was standing like I said to you in the book. I looked up against the fence. I saw that guy standing there, and I said to my guys, which is kind of messed up if you think about it. I looked at him and I said, hey, look at that patch. I'm going to be one of those guys. No one, what? Shut up. I said, no, I'm serious. I'm going to be one of those guys. And I'm going to go talk to that guy right now. And one of my guys says, are you crazy? He might kill you. I said, kill me for talking to him? Come on. So I walked up to the fence, and he's standing there smoking a cigarette. And he's a big boy. He was big, broad-shouldered guy. Little did I know he just got out of Stillwater for manslaughter, right? And I said to him, hey, how you doing? I'm PeeWee with the Sinners MC. And I left it just at that. And he turns, he goes, I'm Ralph, Hells Angels, Minneapolis. I said, nice to meet you, Ralph. He goes, you too. And we just stood there for a minute real quiet. And I turned back. I looked at him again, and I says, so what do I got to do, Ralph, to be you? He goes, where do you live? I said, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And he says, move to where we are. That's all he said. Move to where we are. And I just walked away with a good feeling in my heart about it, And there were so many things Mooch, being a sinner, being around, the outlaws. We always went to their parties or they would come to ours. But it was more like We had to go to theirs, you know what I mean? And when we go there, it was just a total uncomfortable feeling, bro. You know what I mean? Like you're doing this all the time?
Yeah.
All the time, man. I can honestly tell you, I never felt comfortable enough to where like I would sit down on a couch and throw my feet up. You know, nothing like that, bro. So it's a messed up feeling. You know, you don't feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
And when I would go up to Minnesota, those guys would treat me so good, and it was so different. And you know, it was like those guys, the outlaw guys, wear like, you know, the stuff they were wearing was like the most dirtiest, creepiest, like fuck, you know, their pants were like all ripped up and dirty, and I mean, they just had that grubby biker look to them, you know. I go to Minnesota, these guys are wearing, you know, those like bright ass patches, you know, they look like they glow it in the dark.
Right.
And then you know, they're wearing press pants with ostrich skin cowboy boots. And I'm like, what the hell? I want to be one of these guys.
That's really funny because that kind of aligns with, you know, my story in Oregon and, you know, the Gypsy Jokers and some of those old school clubs versus when I met the Mongols, and they had their own style and they were very clean cut. And so I think it's really cool how, you know, a lot of us can come from that life and our stories can resonate or be real similar.
I know.
It's really cool. And I also think it's funny, you know, you brought up what you felt like walking up to that Hells Angel. And you got to think, you know, funny how life happens because we've been those people that people have come up to us later on, right? So we know both sides of that coin.
Right. Yeah. And you know, it took me off guard because I didn't really think he was going to be that cordial and fun. And you know what? That dude became like one of my best friends. And I did move to Minnesota, and I did the thing where you read it, and you know,
yeah.
I'm seeing now. You can imagine how I feel, Mooch, when I'm sitting there watching A&E, and the guy who ran me down the road, the old man with the mustache, Pat, that's the guy who did it to me, bro.
Yeah.
He's on there, well, you know, you don't mess with that. And I just sit there thinking, you son of a bitch, you know. I mean, after all, he put me through a lot of shit, man.
Yeah, I read about it in your book. I remember reading about it, and I'd heard his name before too, so I was able to kind of put those things together.
Right. And it was sad, Moose, because, I mean, I would get a 45-minute lecture in the kitchen. I'd be standing there with another prospect, Jimmy. Jimmy was funny. You would have loved Jimmy. Jimmy was he was out there, man. He didn't give a shit either way. He'd say to me, hey, man, Pat's a genius. You don't know that? I go, why is he a genius? He goes, you don't get it? Man, where the hell are you? You sleeping? He pits you against me, and then he steps in as the mediator and says, listen, Mooch, come on, you and PeeWee make up, you know? Why are you guys fighting, man? You're supposed to be brothers. But he started it between, you know, right. He got you and me going.
Some manipulation.
Right. So I look at Jimmy and I go, yeah, you're right, man. I never figured it out. So we're standing there and he's giving us a lecture for 45 minutes how we will never, ever be Hells Angels because we didn't stock the cooler with beer, bro. And when a Hells Angel walks in and wants a cold beer and there ain't none, you're out of here.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding me? I'm sitting here willing, you know, put up the fist, do whatever.
The real important stuff, right?
Right, but I'll load the cooler full of beer, bro, if that's what you really want. And the whole time, Mooch, Pat's talking to me, and I'm looking at him like this. Jimmy's standing off the side going, oh, yeah, you know? And, you know, I'm trying not to laugh, bro, but, you know, and Pat would look at him and say, you understand? I mean, he was really giving us a lecture. And not even 2 weeks after that, I go to breakfast with Pat. We're sitting there eating breakfast, and he looks at me and he says, hey, I want to tell you something. Stay away from Jimmy. And I said, what? And he goes, stay away from Jimmy. He's bad news. Just stay away from him. I'm giving you a heads up right now. Now, you know, you coming from a big Mooch, you know, they just told us when we see you guys as prospects working together, that's when we're going to bring you into our team. Then we know that you are ready for us.
Right.
But then all of a sudden he's telling me, don't go talk to Mooch, man. Whoa, wait a minute. You and me are bros, man. We're both prospects. We're both doing it. It didn't make no sense to me, man. He tells me stay away from him. And they kicked me and Jimmy out the same day. The only difference was, Mooch, I rode away on my motorcycle. They kept his.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
That's one thing I really liked about your book is there's a lot of those types of stories, right? People really get to know you, get to know your journey, what brought you in. And I think another cool kind of overlap is you and I both started chapters of major clubs in areas, cities, or states where there weren't before.
Right.
So we know what that challenge is like, right? It's a big uphill battle.
Right. And what's so cool about it is you said to me when you and I started talking, you and me have so much in common. We could have been brothers in the same club, and we're brothers now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
There's no reason for you and me to fight, bro. I mean, just because somebody says so, it's so stupid. You know, I mean, they called me so many times when they were having the negotiations. Remember when that was going on with Steve Dawson and all that shit? And Steve called me up and he goes, come on, man, this killing shit's got to stop, PeeWee. Come sit in on it, you know? And I was like, all right, just let me know, man. And then the shit just went down and I had enough and I quit. And right after I quit, Steve got shot and killed himself from another Hells Angel.
Yeah, and that kind of put the end to a lot of those talks for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that stuff we've talked about before, and I've talked about with guys from other clubs too, is I get when you're in the club, you do what you're expected to do for the club. We signed up for that stuff. It is what it is. And you really don't want to overthink it too much, right? Or we're going to come to this thing where like, hey, we should all get along. So I get that. But I also get when you leave the club, guys like you and I have a lot more in common for the fact of, and there's a lot of guys like us out there. You spend a lot of years in a major motorcycle club, you devote your whole life to it, and you leave, and now you're moving on, with your life. We can resonate with that feeling. That's hard for a lot of other people to understand and recognize. And I think that's what, those are the types of things we have in common that other people wouldn't understand.
Right. I think it's cool that you and me come from like the same backgrounds. You with the jiu-jitsu and the wrestling. I mean, bro, I lived for wrestling. When I was in high school, I mean, that's all I did. And everybody was like, hey, you're a big dude. You need to go play football. But wrestling was my heart. I love wrestling. So when I went to the University of Wisconsin, I wrestled for them. They asked me if to play football. Shit, I couldn't keep my grades going good enough for wrestling. And then when I tore my leg, man, that kind of ended it for me. And then I played a little semi-pro football, and then I did a little kickboxing. But, I mean, that was all mild shit to me. I was more like you were. You're in the jiu-jitsu stuff, which is basically wrestling.
Absolutely. That's why I like it.
Right, bro. And that's cool. You're still doing it. I mean,
well, and that's one of the things
that break me up.
That's kind of what the segue to my next question was. You and I both got into training. A lot of times it was, like you said, through high school, sports, whatever, but kind of kept it going through club life. And how would you describe to other members or just regular people how important it is to include training in your life, especially for club members?
I think it's very important, bro, because I know for a fact this went through your mind many times where you ain't got to be the baddest dude, right, on the block. Some guys were finger pullers. They couldn't fight. That's what they did. You and me, we could fight. We fight anybody, But I think what it comes around when you look at people in these big, giant, major clubs, you got to bring more to the table. I remember one time an old timer said to me, well, there's a purpose for everybody in the club, which I do believe that, So, if you're like a secretary, treasurer at a club or some shit like that, I don't want to say that, yeah, you're a 4-time Golden Glove boxing champion. That'd be cool. But I think the training's a big part of it, bro, because what I was saying before I sidetracked myself, this crossed your mind, and I know it has, bro. How many times did you look at somebody, Mooch, and just go, whew, how the hell did he get in here?
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
Come on, bro. And when you saw shit going to happen and you're looking around, you see these guys moving to the back. in the back of the group because they're looking for an escape.
I agree. And something I brought up before is I think definitely in your generation prior to me, but from what I've seen, the people that joined clubs back in the day already had a reputation. They were the local tough guy. People knew their name, right? And then all clubs, I feel like, kind of started, just taking anyone that's willing to do what it takes to join.
Right.
And we started getting these guys that aren't about anything or weren't from that lifestyle. And those are the guys that I think you're talking about, the ones that kind of shot, they put on this patch and they're playing a role. They have an image, but they don't have the training or the experience to back it up. And I think that's what ends up getting dangerous for sure. But I think, training, there's a lot of aspects to it that we've learned from wrestling and fighting and stuff is there's an accountability piece, right? If you want something, you've got to work for it. That translates straight to club life, right? Being a man of your word, being dependable, sports straight to club life. I think there's so many parallels. And one of the things I really took with me when that is before I left the club, I had it mandated for our region where everyone had to work out at least 3 days a week. And one of those reasons was mental health, right? It's good for you.
That's cool.
If you're going to be a defensive club or you've got issues, we want to know that everyone knows at least the basics on how to defend themselves and how to defend each other. But C too is, we spend a lot of time getting to know each other in the bars or late night parties, but you really get to know someone when you're training with them too, right? Whether it's boxing or even weightlifting, you get to know a different side of people when you're in the gym. And so I think there's this really positive piece of spending that time with your brothers and really building that bond in a more positive environment.
Yeah, when I went to prison, I don't think all those Serenios were doing all those burpees and shit just, to look good. They're staying in shape, man, for a reason.
Yeah,
and they worked out hard.
For sure. So, we're building brotherhood and we're staying in shape for all the things, for all the right reasons or for the reasons that it's necessary.
Right.
Do you still train or work out or?
I just go work. I'll go work my arms and my chest. Takes me about 45 minutes to an hour, I do about 15 minutes of cardio and I'm just about dead and then I leave,
Right. Yeah, cardio gets harder as we get older for sure.
They're going to have me, Mooch, on one of the A&E things. They asked me, can we go up to the gym? Can you hit the bag? And I was kind of like, well, that poster in the book, bro, that was the last time I kickboxed. 1993, bro. That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
So I said, I don't know, man. And he said, yeah, let's go up to the gym. Will they let you do it? So I called the lady who owns the gym, and she said, yeah, go ahead. Just make sure you don't film anybody else in the gym that doesn't want to be filmed. I said, okay. So I went in there. People moved out, and I was in there. I started hitting that speed bag, and I'm trying to get my rhythm, and that wasn't. And then one time I caught the rhythm on it. I had it going. Thank God he was catching that. And then bing, 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 went all over. And I looked at me, he says, I got it.
Perfect.
And then I started hitting the heavy bag. And I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I was like, and you're hitting that heavy bag and bam, it's flying all over the place. And you'll see it. You'll crack up now after I told you this.
I look forward to seeing it. Yeah, people don't realize the type of shape it takes for boxing, especially. But your cardiovascular shape is crazy.
I'm 67 years old, bro. So for me, standing there hitting these bags and shit, and lifting, when I go to the gym, people always say to me, I can't believe you're 67. I said, I'm 67. I'm starting to feel it now, bro. But
I bet. But that's part of the reason people don't believe it is because I also feel that active lifestyle helps keep you young, helps keep you in shape.
Like, like now, Mooch working on the old cars I told you I like working on. Honestly, I truly believe this, brother. I believe that working on those old cars keeps me alive.
Yeah.
It gets to a point like when I'm laying on the concrete, it's hard for me to get up sometimes because that cold concrete like sucks the life out of you. When I get up sometimes, bro, I'm hurting pretty bad, and I thought, man, if I stop doing this, I'll end up shutting my eyes some night, and that's the end of it.
Absolutely. You got to stay active. I have a spinal fusion, and one of the things I know that keeps me kind of out of pain, or at least keeps the pain at bay, is just moving, right? Staying active, not laying around. And so I'm sure you have a lot of injuries for everything you went through during the day or in your day. And same thing, right? Stay active, stay busy. And I think it kind of keeps that stuff at bay, or at least helps it out.
What about those stem cells? You ever tried that?
I haven't yet.
I think that might work, Mooch. I've been looking into it a lot, brother. Swear to God. Mike Tyson did it. And
Yeah.
and look at him, man. I think he's going to kill this guy.
I hope so too. I really hope so.
Oh yeah, I can't stand the dude, bro. Mike looks so good at 57 years old. He said he feels 25. He went to Colombia and he got the stem cells injected into him.
Yeah, I've read great things about it. And then also, there's a lot of shout out to Mel Chansey and his organization, Core Medical. There's a lot of good companies that have peptides now that are helping a ton with recovery and healing. So I think there's a lot of new science for stuff like that, for like getting over injuries and staying active.
Well, I think we should try it, bro. We both need it.
Oh yeah,
I'll go. Hey, I'll go with you.
Yeah, it sounds good to me. Especially if we get a trip out of it.
Yeah, we're going to
another thing we have in common, other cool parallels. We both ended up writing a book, and so I kind of wanted to get your perspective on, what made you think about writing a book, or how did that process really happen, or how did it come about?
Bro, I started writing the book when I was in the club, and the same old bullshit, Mooch. When you're in a club and you write a book, and a lot of the guys, the older guys, what the hell is this? What are you writing a book? And they all frowned on it. And so I kind of put it on the back burner for a while. And, but I wrote a lot of it. And most of it was about me as a kid growing up. I wanted you to know, like, me as a character. You know what I mean? And then when I took it to this guy who worked out of Burbank he writes scripts for movies and shit. And he read it and he's like, man, PeeWee, people don't want to really hear about you being a kid and the things you did. Really, all they want to know is about the club life stuff. And I said, man, forget that. If me writing a book is going to be just about being a Hells Angel, I don't want to write it.
Absolutely.
Because I wasn't born that. You know what I mean?
I agree. It's part of your story, but it's not your whole story.
Right, bro. It was part of my life then, but it's not a lifetime thing, because obviously, look at both of us. It's not a lifetime thing.
Absolutely.
So I changed that book, Mooch, probably about 14 times. I had to change it. First, I had to take everything out of it, because I would say, like, we did this as a club. We did this, me and the guys. I had to take all that out, man, because I was out now. So I had to change it. And then, a guy tells me, the editor, George Christie, hooked me up with the editing place. And that guy charged me $3,000 just to edit the book, and then he calls me up and he says, yeah, I don't know. I think you were angry when you wrote the book. It was in a hurry. I says, now the book kind of looks like it's all over the place, because I wrote it over 15 years and I kept changing it. And he says, well, I think that you're violent, sexist, and racist. And I said, well, I didn't pay you $3,000 to tell me something I already knew. But yeah, I wanted to tell my story. That's why I said when I read your book too, man, I was like, man, me and this dude have so much in common, I mean, I could meet you on the street and we would have been best of friends, even in the wrestling, the whole thing, bro. I still talk to wrestlers from other high schools that are still my friends to this day.
That's awesome. Yeah, my jiu-jitsu team started a wrestling program recently, and one of the guys is the head high school wrestling coach. So they're still, still really involved in that lifestyle. Because I think there's so much that can do for youth. Look how much we learned from it.
Right.
I think another thing, and I wanted to know if this is a decision you made consciously or not, but one of the things I did with my book is, like you said, club life was part of my story, but that's not who I am. It wasn't my whole story. And so I never cared for when people wrote books when they used the club's name in the title, because I think they're profiting off the patch or the club's name. And that's just my personal opinion. So I made it a point that the title of my book said nothing about the club. Now the back does, obviously I talk about the club in it, but I'm not, that doesn't say, the life and times of Mongol Mooch or whatever. And I noticed you did that too. So was that like a conscious decision you made? And kind of what was your thought behind that? It's a kind of similar thought process.
It was funny because I was at a drag strip and an ex-member from Minnesota walked up to me and I didn't recognize him because he used to have like this big giant 1% diamond on his neck. It was huge, bro. And he walked up and he says, hey, PeeWee. And I go, hey, I honest to God, I did not recognize him because that thing was so big. You know, for it to be missing is like your neck. You know what I mean? I was like, who is this guy? So he says, you don't know me? And then, you know, he said his name. I don't want to mention his name, but, you know, and then he said his name and I go, oh my God. I go, what happened? He goes, I got it lasered off. I got all laser. I'm getting married. You know, that's my past. I'm not trying to drag my past into my new life. And I just wanted all that off my body and stuff. And I said, oh, okay, cool, man. He goes, you still writing a book? And I said, yeah. He goes, what's the name of it? I said, well, I don't have a name for it yet. He goes, I got a name for your book. I said, yeah, what is it? He goes, Brotherhood, greatest lie ever told. And I just looked at him. I said, bro, I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
And he goes, use it. And I said, no, I'm going to use it. And it's funny, if you think about it, Mooch, I know you're going to remember this because Sunday night when we were watching that Secrets of, yes or no, bro, did you see on there when they show Sonny in that thing and they said, Sonny said, yeah, do whatever you want, spend money. There is no brotherhood.
Yeah. Yep.
Come on, bro. He said it.
He said everyone's out for themselves, or he said something similar to that.
Yeah.
That respect.
There is no brotherhood. And then that Crouch guy, you know, I really thought he was kind of a cool dude, man, at first, you know. I thought it was kind of messed up, you know, when he shot his old lady and his stepkid at the end. I shoot yourself, you know, if that's what you want to do. But
yeah, I have a hard time saying he's a good guy after that stuff. Well, I mean, A, he's an informant, and B, he killed his family. But I would say, have you listened to that podcast about his manuscript, that Relative Unknown podcast?
No, I never did. No.
So check that out when you get a chance, or any of you viewers, check it out. It's on Spotify. It's called Relative Unknown. So, you know, when he killed himself, they found like a trunk of all of his belongings, and it had his whole memoirs, manuscript, recordings of him talking, old pictures. Wow. And his daughter and some people put it together and turned it into this podcast. So it's just him telling his whole life story, based off of his words and stuff, but based off club life and everything. And it's one of those things you'll start listening to it and you won't be able to stop till it's over, because it's such a wild story.
Wow, I'll have to check it out.
And
I was talking more, Mooch, about like at the Polish Women's Auxiliary thing.
And see, that's all in there.
Taking away and he's getting down and he was hardcore. But did you notice too, bro? He said it. He goes, I felt like the brotherhood wasn't there anymore. I didn't feel the brotherhood. See, he wasn't feeling it, bro.
And, you know, I feel like that's pretty generational too, right? I mean, he was in an era well before me. You were in an era before, you know, around that time, but also after that. And then I came after that. And I think that's kind of a reoccurring theme, right? It seems to be.
Yeah.
So how has your transition been post-club life? And I don't want to get like into the negative stuff, but like what kind of positive things have you done moving forward? Like, you know, we spent 24/7 clubbing. So when you get rid of that, what kind of things have you filled your time with, and what kind of positive things have you led into?
I just work on the old cars, man. I got 5 acres here. I'm cutting my grass at least twice a week. You know what I mean? Just hanging out. I don't go anywhere. I don't go to the bars. I don't hang out. I don't even have a motorcycle, Mooch. I sold it to buy a lawnmower.
Oh, man, I was going to ask you if you're still riding. What you
no,
have,
the lawnmower was $12,000. I sold the bike for 10.
Oh, yeah, bike prices are crazy now, too.
Yeah. But I'm not going to lie to you. I miss it. You know what I mean? When I see people riding in this town, they ride all the time here. They just had a bike fling, and there was probably 30,000 bikes in town, you know, and my constant, I could hear them down on the highway. I live off the highway about 2 miles, but I could hear them, and I miss that. But talking about, you know, how I can cope with it, the hard part for me, Mooch, is, you know, 320 pounds, I'm 6'8". I don't blend out. I don't blend in. I just wish I could be left alone, you know? I mean, look at, here's you and me talking. I'll come hang out with you any day and go somewhere, you know? And we ain't got no problems. But I bet you we run into some dickheads, and that's all I can say. And they got to prove a point. Prove a point what? You're out, I'm out. We have no fight in the game no more, bro.
I agree. And we talked about it a little off air too, but you know, it's one of those things where, and I brought it up earlier, when you're in the club, you do what's expected of you as a club member. And I don't feel like other people should hold that against you when you're no longer in the club. Obviously there's a big history between both the clubs that we are in. And, if I held that against you as an individual, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
And then, we're burning bridges. I'm not making connections, potentially be missing out on some good friendships and brotherhood if you personally did something against someone I cared about, that's a different story, but you know what I mean? And I think that's one of the things too about moving forward is there's some people that don't want to let it go.
Right. Everybody says, everybody says, you talk about time. I said, well, I don't talk. Everybody constantly asks me about it. Hey, did you have to do this? You have to do that. And all the stupid shit they ask you, it's just, holy mackerel. Somebody told me the other day, man, your book was so good, bro. You got to write another one. I said, never.
I get that. I get that too. And my purpose of writing my book, and I don't know if yours was the same, but it was just to share my story and see if I could help some other people or, meet you or people have same stories, but definitely wasn't for monetary value. And no, that's not really there anyways. But I don't have interest in, and I just told my life story. What else am I going to write about,
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. I read it. I enjoyed it. And like I said, we have so much in common. It's unbelievable.
And I think hopefully our viewers see that too, that most of us that got brought into motorcycle club life have a lot in common, right? There's something that brought us all to the same, even if it was a different club, things that brought us into that lifestyle or that world, because we share a lot of common characteristics. Absolutely. And for me, I joined a motorcycle club because I love motorcycles. And that's why I asked, if you're still riding. And after my spinal fusion, they told me I couldn't ride motorcycles anymore. And I went about 6 months without a bike. And then I got one on a road cross country. I just couldn't imagine not riding motorcycles, but that's part of me. And that's why I love this culture or this lifestyle. And I still ride all the time.
You got the FXR, don't you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had some Dynas and FXRs really early on in the Mongols, and I was always told I had a Hells Angel bike or White Boy bike. And, Sons of Anarchy made that more popular, and a lot more guys have those style bikes now. But you remember what it's like going. There was only like that club style scene. It was based off of your club and the way people were building bikes or your old club.
Right.
So how do you feel like since you've transitioned? So you said, obviously the cars, staying active with the cars and stuff like that, working out. Do you miss? Is there parts of it that you miss?
You know what I miss? I think I miss the most. There were, just like you, bro. There were some really good, and I know you'd agree with me. There were some really good brothers that you met that you miss. You miss in a club. You wish you could pick up the phone and say, "Hey, Mooch, how you doing, bro?" But you're out bad. I'm out bad. No, they're not going to talk to us. So,
For
hey,
sure.
I can live with that. But I would say that the hardest part for me, I think I miss mostly the traveling because I travel all over the world, bro.
Yeah.
And I never would have done that unless I was in the Marines or something like that. But I travel all over the world and I made myself very active. And I think maybe that's why I was more popular because everybody all over the world knew me.
Yeah, but that's a good point is you got to put in the work to get that reputation.
Right, right.
We talked about it a bit already, but there's those people that look up to the older guys or the guys that built a name and they want to have that name too, but they don't want to put in the work. And the guys that have those reputations or the names because they were active. They got on their bike, they rode, They went to events, they went to parties, they traveled, socialized. You got to put in the work. And I think that's one thing I miss is that, like right now, if I wanted just to go do something, back then I could hop on my bike and a couple hours later be at a clubhouse and be kicking it. Right. So I miss that. That's about the only thing. I'm happy that I'm no longer in the club. I don't regret it. I love my club life. And I feel like you feel I've heard you say a lot of the same stuff. I'm not happy with the way things played out, but it is what it is. But I'm happy with where I am in life now. So here we are, right?
Here we are.
Well, so I wanted to keep this one relatively short and potentially we'll probably hop back onto another one down the road. But before we get off, what are some projects you're working on now? So we got your book, where can people find your book?
It's under www.charliepeewegoldsmith.com. It's my website. So
Perfect.
know what
I'll
I
put the
mean?
link in the description. So if anyone wants to buy it, just click that link and it'll take you over
And
to
that
his
way,
website.
I got the books, Mooch, and like, the book for you, and then I can sign it right here. People go, "Will you sign the book?" Well, I have the book, so I sign every book
That's
I send
awesome.
out. I can't sign the ones you buy from Amazon.
Right. And then you've got that A&E show coming out, right?
Right. There's going
Any,
to be, I think, 5 series. I should not this next one, Mooch, but the one after that. I think it's going to be about me moving from California to Las Vegas, starting Las Vegas.
Very
So,
cool. I'm excited for that. It's been actually, from the 2 episodes I watched, a little different than a lot of those other shows that have come out. So I've liked it so far.
yeah.
And then do you have anything else in the works?
This is it, and this is my last car, Mooch. I can't do anymore. I can't lay on the ground anymore. I'm just getting. I can feel it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hate to say this, but sometimes it's like you never want to think that your age is catching up with you, but I've been feeling it lately. Maybe because I'm not as active. Like
Yeah,
you
let's
say,
get
you
you.
get on the bike, and
Let's get you on an FXR and let's get back to it.
I would love to get on an FXR, bro. I would
Well, I
love that.
appreciate you taking the time to come on with me today. Obviously, you and I are going to stay in touch, and hopefully we can hang out soon. For all you viewers, thanks for checking back in with Mondays with Mooch. Any comments, questions you got, drop them down below. Pete and I will reply as best as we can.
All right, thanks, man.
All
Nice
right, I'll
talking
see
to
you
you, brother.
guys.